I'm not your average Joseph for Use It Music. And today on Producers Unplugged, we speak with Chippewa Sioux, 2023 Battle of the Beatmaker contestant, 2023 IMSTAFESTA Beat Battle champion. We discuss what it's like to be a producer from the reserves, the ups and downs, trials and tribulations, but most of all, the perseverance. From who he's worked with and who he'd like to work with, and where does he see himself going from here? But before we get started, I'd like to thank today's show sponsor, Roadrunner, providing Toronto and the GTA with some of the best rentals that you can find. So, without further ado, Chippewa Sioux. What's up? I'm not your average Joseph for Use It Music, and this is Producer Unplugged. Today we got special guests in the house, Chippewa Sioux. So we first met at the Battle of the Beatmakers. And I didn't get to interview you during the cook-up. I did interview a couple of the producers there.
Right.
I didn't get to interview you, but that's dope because now I get to interview you now, right?
Hey, all in due time.
All in due time.
Right.
So the format is we basically start off with 3 questions for the Producer Unplugged, and I call that segment Producer Plugged In, right? So the first question is, what is your favorite piece of software to use?
Software. Oh, that's a good one. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love talking about music. I love production.
Nice.
I just have a real appreciation for the craft. Like, I really love, back in the day, they used to have the magazine, the Scratch.
Right.
You remember
Scratch, yeah.
That's really, I had my introduction to production and real story. So just talking about production, that's my...
Okay, well, then you've been at it for a while, man, because Scratch is a magazine that goes back.
Right, right. Yep. So my favorite piece of software, I'm sure some people have seen my IG where I talked about the PlayStation, where I learned Funkmaster Flex had a MTV music generator too.
Yes.
That's where I taught myself how to, I was introduced to the piano roll.
Okay.
I didn't know how beats were made. So that's really my foundation started there.
Right.
So I have a funny story too, because when I was early teen, I didn't know how beats were made. I didn't know how music was made.
Right.
You hear it, you like it, you love it. I didn't know how beats were made. So I'm thinking, I love Timbaland.
Yeah.
He has the beat Big Pimpin'. I'm thinking this guy is playing a flute like crazy. I thought he was playing all these instruments. I didn't know anything about sampling, right?
Right.
So I'm on my PlayStation trying to recreate that sound, thinking I didn't know anything about that. So I'm tearing myself up like, why can't I get it to sound like that?
Right.
So I'm just plugging in day after day. On that PlayStation, there was some nights where I just like I give up. Like, there's no way I'll ever figure this out. Like, this guy is just too good. Like, I can't get my sound to get him sound like that.
Right.
But
so music generator
is really because from there, I was introduced to Reason when I went to school.
Okay.
When I saw Reason, I saw the piano roll. So I was like,
and it clicked.
This is just like that. So
yeah.
I would say that was really the basis of my software introduction and how I started piecing beats together. Yeah.
So starting off with software, with me, it's a little bit different because the software at the time would have been, I guess, just maybe Rebirth was the first piece of software that I started using. And I actually started off with just the old school tape and so forth like that.
Okay.
Right?
Yes,
I'm a hardware guy.
Okay.
So my second question would be, what would be your favorite piece of hardware? Seeing that you started off in the software world, this would be interesting.
I guess it would have to be, a PlayStation. But my first actual big piece of software is my girlfriend who became my daughter's mother.
Okay.
She bought me a Korg Triton.
Chord Triton.
Yeah, this
Nice
was like
keyboard.
a few years after like the peak Triton use. Like she was very new to it, but she surprised me with this keyboard. So I'd never played a keyboard before. I was always making beats through the PlayStation controller.
Right.
So this was my first introduction to actually playing an actual instrument, like with my hands and actual having rhythm and going through the sounds. And I discovered the patch that had the grinding sounds.
Right.
From the grinding beat. So I was like, okay, this is like, I feel like I'm in the game, right? I felt like I was in the game, you know. But if I could also add to that, I had a chance to have the MPC for a short little while.
Right.
I was introduced to the MPC. I fell in love with the sound, like immediately. Like I understood why it was such a important piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Because my biggest issue when I was making beats was I couldn't get it smacking enough. Like I couldn't get the bottom end to hit like I was wanting to. But with the MPC, the compression on there, like my first couple beats, I was like, I could not believe this sound. Like it's so hard
that it made.
Yeah, right. The difference is complete. So I would say either the Triton or the MPC. I would like my favorite hardware.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I first started working within the industry, the first paycheck that I got, I bought an MPC 2000 XL.
Okay, yes.
I was like, I gotta have this piece of machine. This was the.
How much was that at the time?
I think I paid $1,500 for mine, but it might have been off the back of a truck deal that I got.
Was it the fully loaded? Did it have like all?
No, it wasn't fully loaded. I got the 8-out card after.
Okay.
The effects cards I didn't end up getting.
Right.
But
did it have the CD drive, anything like that?
No, I had the original
same here. I didn't
original
have
floppy disk drive.
Yeah, none of that stuff, right?
Yeah, it was really just it's what I could afford at the time, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned you mentioned Timbaland.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe that might be the answer to my third question, but the third question would be, who is your favorite producer, or who's a producer that you feel that you most connect to?
That's a really tough one. Of course, I would say Timbaland, but during my coming of age phase, I was blessed to be a teen at the time when Rough Riders and Cash Money were like hitting their peak.
Right.
DMX, Juvenile, so Manny Fresh was producing full albums like top to bottom.
Right.
400 Degrees, like by Juvenile, like changed my life. Like I asked for that CD for my birthday, and they don't know this, but I actually snuck and I checked. I found the CD before it was my birthday.
Right.
And I snuck and listened to it with my headphones. I listened to that thing top to bottom, and I was like, oh my God, this is everything. Like, back that ass up. I could not believe the production on it, the intro, like the beats and everything was so crazy.
Right.
But also Swizz Beatz was doing the same thing with Rough Riders. He was producing full albums, like top to bottom. Right. After the success of DMX's first album, he did Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. He was working with Eve, then he did the Rough Riders compilation. So those two guys right there were like, those were the beginnings of, made me want to actually make full albums. But also I give like respect to Dr. Dre, of course. I always come up with these like big guys, but that was like kind of before my time.
Right.
So as it was just in the right time where I connected with it. So, you know, and then also Swizz Beatz working with Eve. Like I love producers that can work with women.
Yeah.
And have, you know, still be hard hitting. They still have all those elements that I've been looking for, but Timbaland as well, because he's obviously worked with Missy, the Aaliyah stuff. Like, I like to be more diverse.
Okay.
You know? I like to. A lot of people like assume that I'm just into rap or stuff, but I have a heavy R&B background because I had a lot of females in my family. So,
right.
My dad's reserve is like right near Detroit. So we get the Detroit radio station. So all my cousins would be putting me on game early.
Nice.
And yeah,
Well, I want to get back to that. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So out of all those producers that you named,
yeah, trying to pick one.
yeah,
Oh
it's
my
hard.
God,
I know
that
it's
is
a hard
so
question.
hard.
It's a hard
Yeah,
question.
it is so hard.
It's a hard
because,
question.
man, and that I haven't even got into Kanye West yet. Like that was a huge, like, the college dropout. Like it's so hard to pick. Like honestly, like it is really hard.
All right, let me rephrase it then.
Yeah.
If there was any one of those producers that you mentioned, right?
Mhm.
Who do you feel that your style would probably be more close to?
Close to, I would say, man. Yeah, I would say Swiss Beats. I would say Swiss Beats because as I mentioned about the Scratch magazine, I think I read somewhere about him. He put like toothpicks in the keys of his piano,
Right.
and to make like these weird sounds. And then, you know, that kind of just sparked something in my mind.
Yeah,
like there was like a creativity
Yeah.
section, like thinking outside the box, as opposed to like sampling, you know, like big soul records or whatever, familiar records, just like going the other way and just like making new sounds out of just weird things. That kind of piqued my interest. So for when I do my approach, like I'm thinking, how can I be different? How can I do something that's completely left and still make it have that bounce or that nod, that head nodding, you know, like still have that,
Right.
but be different somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned music generator.
Yes.
It's like we're dating ourselves now.
No,
so
big time.
So how old were you when you first started off? And it was it, did you go out and get music generator, or was this something that you seen and said, hey, let me try this out?
Yeah, it was actually my cousin who's his friend had music generator, and my cousin was gassing me up because, you know, we were both into music. He was
Right.
like, hey, he's like, you should try like make some beats, you know? So I figured it would be something, it looked easy.
Right.
You know, it looked from the outside looking in, it looks easy.
It looks easy.
Yeah, it looks like something I could do. And then until I tried it, and I was like, man, I had to learn about 4/4 time, teach myself about, you know, putting things in the right.
Right. So you have no music
zero anything whatsoever. I'm just a huge fan of the music.
Right.
Like coming where we're from, like it was a form of escapism at sometimes, and sometimes it was like that was your source of like gets you out of bed.
Right.
You know, like this was something that really, because I'm thinking of the time period too when the internet's still in its baby phase. There's not really much access outside of if you have cable, which I didn't. I'm from the reserve. It's like way up north.
Right.
So few and far between, I get opportunities to hear the music, you know, see the culture. So whatever little bit I could get, I would just like hang on to it. Like magazines were a big thing back then, dating myself again.
Yeah.
But and then I was like a much music baby, you know. I was you know, I moved a lot, but that thing was a constant in my life. Like I was constantly paying attention to what was hot, you know, the countdown, you know, I always tuned into Rap City and The Mix and all these shows that are like that I was paying attention, you know, I was soaking it in. Like I know we used to get in trouble all the time back in the day, say you're watching too much TV and do this. I'm glad I soaked that all in. Like that was such a small, finite time period of culture just being blasted, and I was just soaking it all in like a sponge. Like I was just loving, like it was giving me a reason to live, really. Like because where we're from, it was really depressing. Pardon me. It was really like as a First Nations person, like we didn't really have much of an identity.
Right.
Like, we don't see ourselves, especially at that time, like in these roles. Like when I see someone like a Jay-Z or Nas or somebody like just these figures, I don't see a native version of that I can I can like learn from. Like I'm just seeing like, because we didn't really have male figures in our lives. Like there was not a lot of role models. So I look to these figures as like this is my guy. Like this is kind of the direction I want to go.
Right,
You
right.
know, like this is so.
And plus, you were a huge fan of music.
Yeah,
right.
so I
yeah.
love
so
the
it's
music.
Easier to connect.
Yes,
it was easy to connect.
exactly. So it was like it changed my style. It made me want to like get fresh. You know,
Right.
like it was more than, you know, people always have this negative stigma about rap or talking about drug dealing or this or that. I never thought about the drug dealing part, or it didn't make me want to deal drugs. All I took from it was that you want to look your best, you want to look fresh, like you want to be, you know, the best version of yourself. So those were the lessons I took from watching and taking in the culture. You know, that I took that little piece, I added that jewel onto my chain, and you know that's what gave me the confidence to really walk out my door, leave my porch. You know, they're
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the music generator and you get into high school and you start messing around with Reason.
Yes.
How did you find yourself, or did you find your production style changing once you got like the Reason? Because obviously there's more bells and whistles to Reason than there is with the music generator.
Here's the other part is that I started way late. I graduated like I was supposed to graduate when I was 18, 19. I didn't graduate. I got held back. So I had to do a whole nother year. By that time, I was not doing music. I was not. Okay. I never made a beat. So this is the end of high school.
Right.
So I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm too late. I'm too late to the game to really start making music. Like I'm in my 20s now, basically. I felt so far behind. Like I'm looking at guys like they've been doing this their whole life. That's why they're so good. I was like, you know, Jay-Z was retiring at the time.
Right.
You know, he had the Black Album and stuff. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's already beat the game. He's done everything I wanted to do. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like I'm still just an infant trying to make an impact in this game. Like I felt so far behind.
Were you still listening to music at that time?
I was loving music. Like I wanted to do it, but I felt like, man, I don't know anything about music. I'm not a music guy other than, you know, powwows, of course. We'll get into that later. But so I'm at 20, starting at square one.
Okay.
You know, so my first beat I made probably when I was like 19, 20 on the PlayStation. And then I was introduced to Cool Edit as well at the time. My cousin was working at the local TV station in Wikwemekong, where I'm from. He found a copy of Cool Edit, just a demo version. Right. He brought it. He said, why don't you try this? So I tried that out. It was way different from the PlayStation. It was just an empty space. Like you put it on, it's just tracks and just emptiness. There's it's not divided into 16s or anything like that. It's just empty space. I'm like, how am I going to figure this out? And then I put a track on there, and then I highlighted a part by accident, and it started looping. I was like, oh, that's how they do it. That's how they do it. Like, I was like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, what else can I loop here? I was like, so I was teaching myself how to find the intro of the loop and the outro of the loop. Right. So that kind of introduced me into that way of approaching music.
Yeah. And was that the point where you realized, okay, Timbaland is not playing all these instruments?
That's exactly it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I was thinking about those nights where I was like, oh, I'll never figure this out. I'll never figure this out. This guy is just too good playing the flute and all this stuff. I'm like, no. And then when I figured that out, I was like, oh my God, that opened a whole new world. Like I didn't think less of his talent because of it. I was like, man, this is genius. Right. This is genius. I was like, what else can I? So right away, I was thinking, okay, I'm a powwow guy. So I started using powwow in the Cool Edit. I slid in there, started chopping it up, trying to find loops and stuff. Because up at that point,
so you were incorporating from early. Because like when I first heard some of your beats, I was like, oh, that's dope. Like you're incorporating your culture into these beats.
Right.
But I was I wasn't thinking that maybe you were doing this at the beginning. I figured maybe like you were beat producing, but it's like, hey, this is part of my. Let me add this in. But you were actually doing this from the jump.
So the thing was, I loved all these producers that I named. They all had their style.
Right.
You hear Timbaland beat, you know that's Timbaland. You hear Dr. Dre at the time, you knew that was Dr. Dre. Kanye West had his sound. I was like, I need my own sound. I can't just like, I want to like, I would emulate my favorite producers, of course. That's how I started. But I needed my own sound, and right away I was like, I got to do Pow Wow, because my dad's side of the family is a Pow Wow family.
Okay.
So his mom, dad, all the siblings, their kids, like you're just born into it. So when I go spend time there, all summer we'd be at Pow Wow every single weekend. So my dad, his brothers, and my grandpa, they had a drum. So I'd be sitting at the drum. So Pow Wow music was heavily ingrained into my upbringing.
Okay.
So as a Pow Wow, like lifer, basically is what we are. Like we just live for it. You just wait the whole year for the summer to come.
Yeah.
I was just so heavy into the Pow Wow. Like it wasn't my whole life. Maybe when I was like 11, 12, I was really introduced back into it. And that's when I started sitting with the drum and sitting and learning. And I'll give people a little game about the Pow Wow drum. There's a lead singer for every Pow Wow drum, which is my uncle.
Right.
They're like DJs, essentially, because when you're at the drum, say they need a song for this type of, like a female, like a jingle dress song.
Right.
This lead singer needs to know which songs to sing, because there are certain songs for certain things. I'm learning this all as I'm watching. So just like a DJ, he's also checking the vibe of the crowd.
Right.
He knows what song is played. So when someone says, White Eye Singers, can we get a song for this? He knows what song to dig out the crate, right?
Right.
Boom. So we have hundreds of songs ready to go. For the situation. So in that way, it really relates to a DJ. Like you're moving the crowd, you're watching the vibe of the crowd. Sometimes there's things that happen in a powwow where it's they have to turn the cameras off. There's certain sacred songs that you got to have, and you have to be prepared for that. There's some people who try to come and sing powwow and they don't have knowledge of those songs, so they don't really know that part. Just like people who try to become a DJ and they don't know how to read the crowd yet.
Right. Yeah.
And they're just playing whatever, and they're not getting it. You know, the floor is empty. So yeah, the lead singer at the powwow needs to have that wherewithal of the crowd. They need to be able to vibe with it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you. Like I would just assume that, you know, it's not necessarily a set that they play, but maybe they have like an idea of what they're going into, and not really something that it's more of a response thing. Like you're getting a response, and from that response, it's dictating what's coming next.
Right. Exactly. And also too, there's situations in the powwow where a dancer might be just feeling the song. Like there's something about the music itself. It would just activate something in the dancer, and they would pull up the eagle whistle, and they'll call what's whistling the drum. They'll blow the whistle, and that means, you know, keep going, you know, keep that thing going.
Keep that vibe.
Yeah, keep that vibe going. And that's when all the cameras have to go off, and it's a real, like you could feel the energy. You could feel it in the crowd. You know something special is happening.
Right.
You know, that's what tells me music is more than just music.
Right.
It's not just, you know, a song you listen to on a thing. And that's not just powwow music. That's all music. That's the feeling I got from listening to the hip hop that I grew up listening to, the R&B. I would get that there's something about it. It's not just music. It's not just, you know, there's a strange energy. When you're feeling down, you play a certain song, it lifts your spirits up, right?
Yeah.
And you know, when you're in the locker room ready to play a championship game, you want to get hype. You play that, you know, whatever gets you that feeling, right? That you want to go win. That's encapsulated in powwow as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dope.
Yeah.
So you start off now. You're doing production now. The the drum.
Mhm.
Are you recording your own drums, or did you go and find samples? So actually,
Yeah.
it's funny because I actually have in one of my kits just like a whole Native American
Okay.
set where it's
Yeah.
just the powwow sounds, the
Right.
drumming and
Right.
so forth like
Yeah.
that. So I know there's samples out there that support that.
Right.
Did you gravitate to samples first, or like with the actual instruments being within that circle, were you
Yeah.
sampling your own stuff?
It's so funny actually. I didn't know when I first started sampling, I didn't know how to dig for sounds. Like I had, like during the I'm gonna age myself again, LimeWire days.
Mm,
You'd have a big playlist of songs on your computer. I would just be chopping up, a Lil Wayne song that just came out. Like, oh, I hear a drum in there. Maybe I'll take that and use it. I didn't know like how to dig for samples. I didn't know what that was.
right.
I just knew like if I heard a good kick, at the end of Kanye West, Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
At the very end, it goes boom. He has a big 808 drop at the end.
Right.
I was like, oh man, that feels so freaking heavy. I'm gonna take that. Then Genuine Nas, You Owe Me. I took, that kick because it just felt so heavy. I didn't know anything about isolating sounds.
Yeah.
I was just taking it and just chopping it and putting it into the Cool Edit and making beats from that.
Well, essentially, you were digging in the crates without
I didn't know.
the knowledge of digging in the crates.
I was just kind of.
This is what the veteran producers were doing back in the day.
Right,
They were
right.
taking like the old soul records, and one record they might just it might just be one hit from that one record.
Right.
They'll sample that and they'll find another record, find a next hit.
Right.
Take
so
it from
it
that.
was interesting that that's like I just naturally that's kind of what brought it out of me. Like you hear what you like.
Right.
You know what you like. You know what you hear. I can't really explain it. It just sounds good. It feels good.
Yeah.
So take that. But later on, I was like, okay, I could see where you could find isolated sounds, isolated kicks, or a loop of some sort, whatever. But that was way later. I was just feeling my way through it. I didn't. Where I was from, it was not a big hip hop community. It's more rock or country and stuff like that. So I was by myself in this, and I was trying to just find my way through the dark.
To figure it out, right?
Yeah. But obviously, I found a path for myself. Like I carved a little lane for myself. But with Pow Wow, my older cousin had a friend, Sean, and they were singers that would travel. Like they would just hitchhike to a powwow, and they were great singers. And when you're a great singer, there'll be a bed for you, they'll feed you, whatever.
Right.
So you could just travel everywhere you want. Sean is the one who introduced me to that powwow life of. He was like a powwow celebrity.
Okay.
So he was well known in the powwow trail. People know who he was because of his singing.
Right.
Him, I think he was the reason why I wanted to start making beats with powwow, because in my mind, he wanted to start rapping and he wanted to start doing other things. I was like, well, I'm making beats. How about I'll chop up what I know, which is powwow. Right.
Yeah.
For him, because I wasn't planning on I was still living on the reserve. I had no plans of like touring or performing ever. That was never in my mind. I just loved the music. I loved making it. So he's the one that actually got me, like he was gassing me up. He was really hyping me up. So when I made my first powwow beat, I had him in mind. So I was like, okay, I'm going to show him that, like, wait till he sees this. Right? So I was chopping it up. It's like, he's definitely going to love this. So those first beats that I made had him in mind. So,
and were you chopping from like records, powwow records that were already out? Okay.
So, because he was well known, I was kind of iffy about using powwow samples that, like I said before, some are sacred. Right. Some belong to a family. They might not be comfortable with you using it. Right. So I asked him, like, can you go approach drums and just say, this is what we're doing. Can we have permission to use your song? So we did. So he approached a few, and those were the first samples that I took from the ones that said, okay, they give us the okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was the first. And then there's some big drum groups in the powwow circle that I was familiar with through my family, through my dad's family. So those ones I was sampled to, but I wouldn't just sample just anything,
Right.
anybody.
Yeah.
I was trying to be like respectful.
It's still yeah, because
Yeah.
it was still a sacred thing,
Yes,
right?
it is a sacred thing, yeah.
And so at this time, and you're doing all this inside Reason.
This I hadn't even heard of Reason at this point.
So we haven't gotten to Reason yet.
I haven't gotten to Reason yet
Yeah.
because this is still my infant stages. Like I just kind of took to it. Like I was still thinking, okay, I'm 20 years old. This is kind of late, but I picked it up super fast. Like I was like, just because I had the love for it, I had the appreciation for it. Like it was coming naturally fast. And yeah, my boy Sean, he's like, yo, you should really take this out on the road. Like you should there should be big rappers like rapping on your beats. Like he's like I was never thinking of that. I was never thinking that far. I was thinking, because we're on the reserve, I'm self-conscious. Like I don't really have the confidence. I don't know who I am really.
Right.
But it was through making music and making beats that kind of built that confidence. Being able to figure out these programs and teach myself these things, I was like, man, I'm more competent than I'm giving myself credit for.
And at what point did you get there? Like, did you say, okay, you know what? I'm a beat maker.
Oh man, I'm so hard on myself. Like I was really hard on myself early on. Like I was like, yeah, it's cool. Like I'm glad people like my beats, but I was like, this, like I don't feel like I'm on that level of like I could not pitch this to Jay-Z. I couldn't pitch this to Nas. Like I didn't feel confident in that way.
Right.
But honestly, looking back now, my first beats, they could have been pitched to somebody, like I just didn't have that confidence at the time. Like I really wish I did, and I would have reached out sooner. Who knows what I could have done, but everything in due time, of course.
I feel like a majority of producers, it's that way, right? Like you start off, it's a passion or something that you love, and if you're not, I want to say, I guess I wouldn't say musically inclined, but let's say if you're not a person that grew up like playing an instrument, then you probably figure out, okay, there's going to be a learning curve to this, right? And you start off. I remember speaking with the first time I spoke with Boy Wonder, and he was saying the first set of beats that he made were crap, right? But again, this is him just approaching the software Fruit Loops for the first time, and getting into it. It was just him saying that he just spent, and his friends would call him to play basketball, and he'd be like, "Nah, I'm not gonna say it." Just sticking to it and actually just finding his lane, and then from there realizing what the potential could be.
Right.
So you saying that you found your lane a little bit late than you would have liked to, but thinking back to it now, you kind of seen that it was there.
Yeah, it was like I could not believe, like my learning curve was like super high. Like it kind of put me in some tight situations because I grew up around, like there was a lot of garage bands where I'm from. Like there's a lot of musicians,
right?
Like people who play guitar their whole life. There's people who play drums and they have bands. Here comes me with no, musical training, and I'm making this music, and
you're doing hip hop.
I'm doing hip hop.
You're doing hip hop, right?
Right. So people are like, like there's some energy that it kind of made me feel like I wasn't on their level. They're like, you're not a real musician. So I kind of internalized that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have. That was just, I found my way in. I found my own lane. I found something I was into, and I was able to actually make something happen. And there's a thing about small town people that they talk like this big game, and they think they're going to do these things, and it's mostly just talk. Like a lot of people never pull the trigger. They're comfortable being there in the garage, living their fantasies out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to take it to the next level. Like, And I met a lot of resistance doing that. So where I was from, I wasn't meeting a lot of people that were like, you can do it. It was more like, oh.
Besides Steve.
Yeah. Besides, besides my bro, So that's why I give him so much credit, because if not for him, I probably would have just, it would have been a cool hobby to have. And,
right.
I would have, but because he was so adamant, he's like, yo, you really have something here. Like you have something, whatever it is. He's like, you should. I was like, I don't know. Like, yeah, maybe. But the real turning point was when I did graduate. I got an opportunity to go to Brazil through Canada World Youth.
Okay.
So when I go to Brazil, I'm still feeling, self-conscious about, music. I was thinking about it. Like, I had no plans for after graduating, really. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't really good at anything other than making beats, but people are telling me that's not good enough, right? So I'm thinking I'm not good enough. When I go to Brazil, I'm meeting these people, like the culture in Brazil. We met with the team of Canadians, which I was part of, and the team of Brazilians, and we're basically paired together for 6 months.
Okay.
We're on the bus down in Brazil, and they're like banging on the things. Like the music is just in the culture.
It's in the culture.
The girls are dancing samba. Like it's just like music is the way of life. And I'd never seen music looked at like that where I was from.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? This is not just, it's not just music, right? It's not just, like this is something.
It's funny that you mentioned that in that way, because on the reserve, you can feel the spirituality of the powwow, but this is now a different type of spirituality that you're feeling in the samba music.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing the way people were just like lighting up, they have so many songs. They're just, I was just soaking that all in too. And when I came back home and I approached music again, I was like, I didn't feel that same hesitation. I was like, this is for me.
Right.
Music is for me. It's not just, it's not this silly thing they try to put on me and, oh, this is just, a silly fantasy. Nah, music is something it's in our lifeblood. The rhythm is there. Like I couldn't explain it. There's no picture or video could explain going there and seeing these people just like loving it. And they love hip hop down there too. Like they love all different kinds of music, and it really opened my eyes. So when I came back home, I was a completely changed person. And so that was like, okay, all right, I'll do music. I think I can do music. So I went to school for it. That's where I learned Reason. I was introduced to Reason at the school.
Right.
So
which school did you go to?
So there was a privately owned school in Vancouver called Columbia Academy, which was based out of Bryan Adams had a studio there, which he sold to them. And it was like basically it was like a Studio A, Studio B, Studio C. And they also had a radio program. So it was like a 10-month course. Like it was just like a flash. Quick, you know, like I already had an idea of what I wanted to do. I just wanted to kind of a little more direction and from a professional standpoint. So I go to school and I just feel like a fish out of water. Like I was like, man, maybe I bit off more than I can chew. And maybe, you know, so they introduced Reason. And then that's when I see that Reason has the piano roll, like the PlayStation. So I was like, okay, you know what? I think I could rock with this, you know, like it doesn't feel like alien to me right now. Like I feel like this is something I'm understanding the language. So a lot of that time, that 10 months I spent just in the booth with my own personal setup, just teaching myself how to make beats, like with the piano. That's where I was really started to play on a USB MIDI keyboard, which I was not used to. So that was like my crash course into like actually making beats. And I, honestly, the first few, were like, ugh. But after that, I was like, oh, I think I might have something here. And there's some too that I still listen to this day from that was like 2007, I want to say.
Okay.
just I'll go back and listen to it just to see my progress and stuff. And like, wow, I was actually, I had something back then.
Yeah,
You know,
you
there was
was kind
something
of nice
there.
back then.
Yeah, it was a little something. But yeah, that was my introduction to Reason. Yeah.
When was the first time other people besides your homeboy started noticing and started saying, "Yo, this is dope. Can we get some music from you?"
Right. Yo, okay, so here's the thing. I'm from Manitoulin Island, which is here, just south of Sudbury. When I moved to BC, the people are way different. There was a more nurturing atmosphere for creative.
Okay.
So when I play a beat for someone here, they don't understand what is the possibilities that can be done with it.
Right.
Compared to when I played over there, where there's a lot of artists and there's a lot of singers, there's rappers. They hear a beat and they're like, "Oh my God, like I can write to it like immediately." So moving to Vancouver really boosted my confidence because there was artists that were like showing love. They're like, "Yo, this is crazy." That's when I first started working with artists, like started, collaborating with people as compared to over here in Ontario, there was not as many artists, and I could play a beat and people could just go about their business and not say anything about it.
Right.
Which is, if anybody makes beats, that is it kind of,
you
feel it like in here. It's like, oh, okay.
This is your baby.
Yeah, it's my
Right.
baby, right? Like,
Right.
and they're like, yeah. So what else is going on? Like, that energy. But in Vancouver, it was not like that. It was like, this is crazy. So I started working with local artists it was like a community-based center that had a small studio, basic setup, like an M-Box and a Pro Tools. So
Okay.
Leaving school, I went and took over that studio. And it gave me a chance to work with just youth in the neighborhood first. Once I started making some noise, other local artists started hearing, people started coming in. Then from there, I'm making a little bit more noise. So then the artists are getting a little bit bigger. And that really was my proving grounds. So showing what I learned, putting all these little techniques and things that I picked up along the way, I'm just putting them into action. I still wasn't feeling comfortable about putting music out, but it was a good way to actually build up my own catalog, my early catalog, and see what it's like to be in a studio working with artists.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm bullshitting my way through that whole thing too, because I'm telling people, yeah, I graduated, I can do this and that. I didn't know how to do this or that.
Right,
I'm just I'm getting, I'm just learning as I go, right?
Yeah.
I had felt like I could do it. So I said, yeah, I can make that happen for you when I didn't think I could. So it really pushed me out the door, put me out. And, because sometimes when you're in your bedroom all the time, like you start living in this bedroom world, you don't know what your real capability is until you actually leave your house and go out and see what it's like out in the real world. So that was my real world experience of getting out of that. Cause I still produce in my bedroom, but sometimes you got to go outside eventually.
Yeah.
Right. And that was my first foray into going like outside. And, yeah, it was great. It was interesting. Like there was artists that, I was just making beats for, and they would go and they were touring with the beats. I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah.
So they were using, my beats as an intro, or they'd be rapping over them like as a freestyle type thing. And I was just happy to be in the game. I was just happy that
doing what you love.
Yeah, doing what I love, and that people were appreciating what I was making. And it was making what I did make sense. And yeah.
So now you leave from Vancouver and you come back to Ontario.
Yeah.
So now you're here. You got a little bit more confidence underneath your belt.
Yeah.
What do you do with it?
Oh man. Well, here, this is one more story before I left Vancouver. I met a singer. I heard some of her music. I saw what she was trying to do. I saw her vision. But she was not reaching that point. And I had the confidence at that point to say, you know what, I could take you to that next level. You know, like I feel like I have the power now that I can, you know, get something. So I helped her create a demo that she took with her to the Aboriginal People's Choice Awards. And she started shopping that around, and the response was crazy. And she's like, yo, people are loving these songs that we made. She's like, we need a couple more. So I did a couple more and helped her basically put an album together. This got me to live my Manny Fresh, Swiss Beats fantasy, you know, like, now I'm at the helm. Like now I can, you know, really show what I can do.
Now you're producing.
Now I'm producing, right? You know, like I was super pumped. And I used every last bit of my creativity and just all the energy. I just gave my hardest overhand right that I could for this. And that next year, she went back to the awards with our project. This is where it gets started. So I told you I call him my brother Sean, who got me out of my shell, you know, through the powwow stuff. He passes away in August. The craziest week of my life, because my daughter was on the way. She was my ex at the time. Like, she was ready to pop. My brother passes away. My daughter's born, all within 24 hours.
So it's a mixed bag of emotions.
I'm putting all of my, like, me and him, we had this plan of we were gonna make this album, we're gonna tour this. Like, this is the game plan. This is what we're sticking with.
Right.
He passes away. My daughter's born, and I'm just lost. I'm lost for words. I'm lost for what do I do now? You know, like, this is the guy who got me out of my shell. He got me out here. He's the whole reason I'm here.
Right.
You know, like, he's the reason I made the powwow beats. He's the reason this was the direction I was going. And now what? And then my daughter's born. I'm trying to be there for her as a dad and mourn him at the same time. So there's a fighting emotional thing that's going on inside my body.
Right.
So I took that time off to just focus on my daughter. And I really took it hard. Like, I really took that one on the chin. And honestly, I didn't know if I was going to make music again after that, because that was like,
he was the guy. He got it started.
I go home. There's nobody else here that's supporting me or gives a damn about what I'm going to do. And the one guy is a memory now.
Right.
So I take it hard. You know, I put on a lot of weight. You know, like, I'm just like eating, trying to kill the pain any which way, but still try to be there for my daughter and not let that, you know, take away from my job as a father.
Yeah.
That fall, the singer took our project to the awards, and she's like, you should come. She's like, you got to come. Like, you got to come.
Yeah.
Like, we worked for this. And I'm just like, I had every excuse not to go.
Right.
You know, like, I'm overweight. I'm not feeling myself. You know, my brother's gone. I'm here. I'm dad, a full-time dad. Like, I had every excuse not to go. And my ex is like, no, you gotta go. Like, you have to go. Like, you're gonna regret this. Like, she's like, I was like, I don't have clothes. She's like, I'll buy you what, you know, like, I had excuses, you know? She's like, I'll buy you something. Just go. It's like, oh, okay, I'll go. We go. He swept the awards. Every category. Like, we won the album of the year. I produced the single of the year. I'm on the single of the year. You know, like, every big.
That's dope.
That was everything. I felt like he was there with me. Like, that was him.
He was there with you.
He was there with me.
He was there with you.
And that was, you know, that was a monumental moment in my life. And, you know, I wanted to be there physically with him to celebrate you know, but honestly, I'm glad my ex got me to go, and you know, I really would have regretted it.
Yeah.
So now I have, you know, I have something to say, you know, like this, something to show for all the work that I put in.
Yeah.
And you know, it was not all for nothing, but at that point I was still lost without him, you know. But it took a few years, and yeah, we eventually moved back to Toronto because, oh man, that was at the beginning of when rent and all this stuff started skyrocketing. I was like, this is just not making sense here. And people want to work with me, but again, I just wasn't feeling, with Sean missing, I just couldn't do it. Like there's just something missing. A lot of people were like reaching out to me, and I was kind of helping some people with their music and stuff, but my heart wasn't fully there.
Right.
So I kind of had to put it on the back burner for a little bit, but I'm a music lover. You know, when you're a music lover, like, you know, you can't put it away.
Right.
You know, like
it's gonna find you some way, somehow.
Eventually, yeah. I was just like, you know, I can't stop. Like I'd be sitting there, and like I hear a song, I'm like, oh my God, okay, I gotta sample that. And then there was times where I was like, okay, if I can't make a hot beat right now, I quit forever. Like I just, like, not meant for me. And then I make a beat and like, oh God, okay, I'll keep going. All right. you know, like, so I kept going. I wasn't putting my music out there. Like I kind of retreated back into myself and started being more private and just spending the time with my daughter. But that itch for making the music, you know, that was just something that I feel like wouldn't go away. It was just part of me. So I had to start rebuilding everything. So of course, a big part of me moving back was we lost everything in a fire in Vancouver. So that kind of, that's where I had the MPC. I lost that. I had pretty much lost everything, and I had to start from scratch.
Right.
So I was like, well, if we're going to start from scratch, might as well go back to where I'm from.
Yeah.
And so I started building my pieces back together. I bought a Mac, a desktop, had to buy an all new keyboard, you know, start from scratch, basically, you know, and one speaker, start with one speaker, a good pair of headphones. And then I have so many stories, because when I came back to my dad's reserve, I was thinking I was going to work with my cousin who also was into rap. And when I got there, he was on trial for murder.
Wow.
So I walked into a crazy situation that divided the whole community, divided the family. And here I am trying to talk music. And everybody's like, we don't care about music.
They don't want to hear that.
Now, like, so I'm like, man, I have this talent to share and nowhere to put it. So I was like, I got a hold of my cousin's laptop, and he's like, you can do whatever with the vocals. So I took all the vocals that I could off of his laptop, and I was like, I'll make a CD for him. I'll use his vocals. I'll make something just to keep his name alive.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everyone had kind of turned their back on him.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to use all of my gifts and stuff. I'm going to put it into this, just, you know, out of love, because this is my family. I'm not looking for money. I'm not trying to, you know, do any of that stuff. I'm not trying to any of that stuff. So I put together an EP for him. And that after I made that first initial copy, I could tell that people were starting to come around, and they're recognizing what I was doing.
Right.
His name is Nanan, which is 5 in our language, Ojibwe. I think because he was born on the 5th or something like that, born at 5. His name is Nanan. So I named the CD Free 5. Here's the thing with the universe. 5 months after I put that CD out, he was free.
Wow.
Yeah. But at that point, I already lost contact with my family. Like there was just too much going on through that system, and it was not good for me and my daughter. It was not the vibe I want my daughter to be around, especially this murder case. But he got a life sentence. I released the CD, and 5 months later, he was free. But that was just the power of music.
Yeah.
I can't take credit for that stuff, but I say there was a heavy influence in that. But one of those beats that I made for him is what I submitted for the beat battle, as you might see on my IG,
right?
With the judges reacting to my submission.
That was the pull that back, pull that back, pull that back.
That is the one. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was him giving back to me. You know, that brought me back to. That pushed me back onto the path I was supposed to be, because when my brother died, I was completely like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This kind of like opened that path back up in music.
Right.
When I submitted that beat, I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, honestly, I've watched these men judge for years. Like, I watched the whole thing where they sit and there's like so many submissions. I know what it's like too when you're sitting there and you're listening, and it's a long process. You know,
right.
It's very taxing. Like it is a lot when you're consuming art and you're like. So I was thinking, oh man, if they at least like it, that's good enough for me. Or if they have something positive to say. I didn't know they were gonna react. Like they're running it back. That was absolutely mind blowing to me.
It's funny because I did see the clip on your IG.
Right.
And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what did it feel like when you seen that response?
Oh my God. My heart was racing after I hit submit. That whole time, I could not sleep after hitting submit. I was like, oh my God. Everything was running through my mind. They're going to hate it. Or they're not going to like it. Or they're just going to be like, it's all right. Next one. That was my nightmare. So when I get the text from my cousin, he's like, yo, go watch the video. He's like, they ran it back through. And I was like, no way. I go watch the video. I have my daughter's mom there too. I was like, we were like cycling through to the part. And man, if I could bottle that feeling and sell it, I would be a billionaire, a trillionaire. We were jumping, slapping the walls. Like we just could not believe, like that was the validation,
right?
That I always wanted, because
that somebody feels the way about your music the way you've always felt about
and
it.
Not just that, but also these are guys that I really respect.
Yeah,
Too Rude. I'm a Much Music baby.
Yeah.
I know these guys.
Yeah,
like I know and who they work with. To see, like I was a little too young to make it to the Much Music, era. So I was like, man, I missed out on that. But to be in the company of the people that I watched was like, it was like a miracle. Like,
I mean, listen, man, it's like you had Too Rude on the panel.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You have Why Not from Soundsmith.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They've been working with big artists. You have Millennius from Tone Mason. Again, another set of producers that work with big artists.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yes, I mean their reaction means something.
Like Drake and Jay-Z, yes, rapping over, like I'm tuned into the culture. Like I know how important these guys are and their opinions are, just to see that reaction, because they're not just gonna lie to you. They're there for a reason. They're gonna give you their 100% true reaction. And that reaction was everything to me. Like that was native music history to me, because I've never seen a video or anything of anybody reacting to a First Nations person like that. Like just an honest to goodness reaction. It just came out of left field. There was no planning on it. It just happened the way it did. And I was like, oh man, I abused that video so much. I was just playing. I was watching it over. I was like,
that's dope.
Like, oh my God, I just can't believe this. Like this totally validated my path in life.
Right.
Like that really was the payoff. Like I didn't even care about the battle after that. I was like, man, this is it. This is the greatest commercial I've ever had for me. Like nobody ever spoke about me like this, like outside of my brother Sean.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, like, to all the judges, like that. Thank you so much. Like that was everything to me.
Yeah.
That Oh man, I can't speak enough about it because
and you actually ended up working with one of the judges. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yes.
So now, was that your first time submitting anything to like any sort of beat competition?
I did participate in a beat battle in Vancouver,
right?
Which I won that one. That was it was like a local kind of West Pacific Northwest coast area-ish, which was pretty big for me at the time. Like
right.
it really gave me a boost, and because of that I felt like I could submit to this battle, because this battle I'm very familiar with.
Right.
I'm very familiar with. I know what comes with it. I know the winners. I know
For
what
those
they've done.
out there who does not know what he's talking about, he's talking about the Battle of the Beatmakers.
Yes,
which is right. The premier beat competition.
It's the biggest one. Like it is the biggest one. I'll give we got to give them the prop. That is the biggest one.
Like, we have not only winners but participants who've been in it, who have gone on to make a name for themselves. So it's quite recognized.
Yes.
So knowing that now and saying I got it what it takes. Even though I'm nervous submitting, I'm still going to submit.
Yes. So, man, that was, I felt like it was on. I felt like at that moment, I'm on.
Right.
COVID hits.
Right.
I don't need to say anything else.
Yeah.
I was so prepared, and that was another wrench in the system. So I'm thinking, man, this is it's crazy how God works, the creator. You know, like he gives you this talent, but then he takes it away in this other way. And I was like, I don't know what to think about it. So people are thinking like, well, you must have been making music all through COVID. I was like, no, I was like confused. I didn't know where we were going.
Right.
Really? Like I was like,
right.
This was my moment. And then all of a sudden everything just changed. Right. The whole system changed.
So I know during that COVID spell, that they were doing more of the online stuff.
Right.
Did you participate?
Oh yeah, I participated.
I
participated in the first one, but honestly, like I've seen online battles before. Like I wasn't really too like I wanted to be on like the big stage type thing. I wasn't. I just participated because I wanted to support. Like I like being included in the conversation. I love whatever, but I was saving my big tunes for the big battle, so I submitted. So I only made it maybe to the semi-finals of that one. But again, I wasn't really looking to be like in the online battle thing. I wanted to hear
on that stage, on the opera house stage.
On the opera house stage, yes, the one I've visioned myself on for so long.
Right.
Because there's years like I watching it, and around 2014, 2015, I had a huge health scare. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. And it took 7 hospitals to realize it was my gallbladder. And they scheduled an emergency surgery that week, because if I waited any longer, that would have been it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I went through the scariest fight of my life during that time. And after I recovered from that, I was like, man, who knows how much time we have on this earth?
Yeah.
Like there's no way I'm going to live without living my dreams, doing the things that I wanted to do.
Right.
Set out, and I'm not going to make excuses on why I can't. I was like, I don't care how old I am. I'm going to join this battle. I'm going to do this thing that I wanted to do, because I was so close to death. And I was so close that I bought a dog, because I didn't know how the surgery was going to go. I just didn't want my daughter and her mom to be alone.
Right.
I was preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
Like this was really serious. So to survive that, I was super grateful, and I knew I wasn't going to take it for granted. And I knew that if the creator gave me this gift, that I'm going to go put it out there, and I'm not going to there's no excuse this time around.
Yeah.
Like that's why I was like, because again, I started when I was 20. Like I felt like that was super late. I was thinking like this is a young man's game. And that's kind of what I want to get into too. Like the age is such a it's a funny thing. People think, you know, there's a certain period of time where you're good. Like I want to disprove all of that. You know, I want to prove that you can start something when you're 30, when you're 40. You know, there's no late time to start.
No.
If you love it and you have appreciation for it, there is no timeline on which
it might just be the right time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it might just be the right time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a big factor in me actually joining the battle, because that was a bucket list thing for me. You know, that battle is so, you know, coming where I'm from, like watching TV, they might as well be on the moon, right? Like when you're on the reserve, way hard, like there's no way I'll ever reach this level. I'll never get to that stage. But somehow I made it to that stage. And I'm just super blessed. Like honestly, I'm so thankful. Like I'm so grateful that, you know, things worked out the way they did. And yeah, that was something else. Yeah.
Nice. So then you do you submit to the following battle.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And
oh,
again,
gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So here's the other thing. Technology is not our friend. You know, there's some times where it works great, and then there's some times where you really need it, and it completely 3 days before the big battle, my hard drive with everything gone. So for years I'm making beats just for this battle that I'm putting in this folder for this time.
Right.
The Wednesday before the battle, that thing just disappeared. So I'm cursing. I'm losing it. People have already booked tickets to come to the city to come watch me in this battle, and I have no beats. I have no beats for the big battle, the battle of my life, like the battle I've been waiting for. So I was like, okay, I can't quit now, because so many people are like, now they're counting on me. I've put it out in the universe. So those 3 days, I'm just like, I'm whipping beats together. I'm like putting everything, like I'm trying to find, you know, old flashes, maybe if there's beats here, if there's some on the computer, reworking some things. So in those 3 days was the hardest time of my life. And it made the battle of my life super, super stressful.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's got to be so intense.
I felt like, you know, like a day late, dollar short. I didn't have the confidence that I wanted to have walking into that battle.
Right.
I know Havoc is there. My God, I've spent so many years looking up to these guys, and I want to look the best as I can look.
Right.
And, you know, things played out the way they did. I made it to the semifinals again-ish. It wasn't the outcome I was hoping for, but I was just blessed to be on that stage, because you know,
man, going into it, I had either you or DJ Quality.
Oh man, DJ Quality is so good. Yo, shout out to DJ Quality.
I had either you or DJ Quality.
Yo, I appreciate you, man. Shout out to DJ Quality. When I first got there, he was the first person that came up and gave me a dap and just made me feel welcome. Like it felt like the first day of school,
right?
You know, when you're like the new kid and like everybody's so, you know, they have so much experience, and I felt like so alien. But yeah, the way he came and showed love, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, DJ Quality. And he's so talented too. Yeah, his things were slapping.
His beats were super dope too.
I was like, man, some people were saying, yeah, they had me pinned for the win, and that it hurts a little bit. I don't want to let people down, you know, like.
But you know, if I was to sit here and say to you that those beats that I heard that night, right?
Mm-hmm.
You whipped up in like the matter of 3 days.
Oh my God, Yes.
I'd have been.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? Because listen, man. See, and the one thing about the competition that always kills a lot of producers is that they have good beats,
Mhm.
but they're not mixed well,
Right.
right?
Right.
So they don't translate over
Right.
on those
The
big opera
speakers.
house speakers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like your beats is as soon as they get played, they just knock.
Thank you so much.
And again, the way you present yourself on stage, I would have not have thought, and this is a man that lost his whole hard drive 3 days ago.
That is
because the confidence was there. The swag and the confidence was there.
Oh man, thank you so much for saying that. I didn't know what to think really after that. That threw me for such a loop. I was walking in there like not knowing what was gonna happen, you know, like just to hear you say that, I really appreciate that. But yeah, that was also too, I didn't know that the beats were supposed to be 45 seconds. I was making minute-long beats because that's what they were for the previous battle. So I was like, okay, I'll make minute-long. So at the 45-second mark is when my beat hits the gas. That's when they hit stop. I was like, oh my God, nothing is working out the way I thought. So just to hear people enjoyed it, or, you know, they got that reaction was everything to me. I was still like, you know, I saw the reaction, like you felt the energy in the room when the hit, and that, oh man, that feeling as well, like just to be a room shaker, you know, that I always wanted to be a room shaker.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're making a beat, that's the reaction you're looking for.
Right.
I was like, just to hit that mark, I was just like, that was good for me. You know, that was just as good as winning a prize, because I didn't know if I had it like that up until that point. Like in a real room, like the battle that I've been watching since forever, like, do I have what it takes to stand where Boy Wonder and Wonder Girl, you know, T-minus, like, can I stand on that stage, really, you know, and just to hear people react like that, I felt super blessed. Yeah. But if people would have heard that those last 15 seconds, they would go crazy.
It might have been a different outcome.
It might have been a different outcome.
Yeah. Might have been a different outcome.
But, you know, it's a learning experience. You know, you know, it was like, you know, like the sword in the stone, you know, like I was able to it moved. I pulled the sword and it moved a bit.
Right.
And it told me like I had what it takes. So when they contacted me again, they said the next battle was coming up. I was like, okay, this time I feel like I have what it takes. I know what it takes. I'm not going to make those same mistakes I did in the last one. I'm going to try my best to, you know, avoid that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, I was incensed after that, you know, like I was like, you know, nobody wants to take the loss. Everybody wants, you know, you want to go home with the trophy, right?
There's pride in this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I approached it like, you know, a boxing match. Like I wanted to train. I wanted to be the best me to fight the best them. You know, I didn't want to win through no other thing. And that's the other thing too, as a First Nations person, I don't want to win. I don't want people giving me a pass just because I'm a First Nations person making music, just because, you know, like I wanted to be good at it and be First Nations as well. You know, like I didn't want to get just a pass. So I wanted to prove, I had something to prove. And also I didn't want to be boxed in, which is another thing that I had a fear of when I started making powwow beats, is I didn't want it to be viewed as a gimmick. And you know, the way people like jump on sounds and they use it up and then it's gone and the next cycle and it's just old news. Like I didn't want that to be my, you know, what I represented. I wanted to be diverse. I wanted to have, you know, my R&B bag. I wanted to have my power bag. I wanted to be able to have dance. I also record powwow music, like the actual itself. Like I was lucky enough to record with my brother Sean before he passed. We have classics that have been sampled by other artists. So to be sampled as a producer, that's one of the greatest compliments you can get.
Yeah.
So you know, these are a lot of things that I think about when I was approaching, that I wanted to show that I'm not just a powwow sample producer. I wanted to show that I could shake the room with whatever style that I feel comfortable with, or whatever I'm trying out. And also too, like, I love like Just Blaze, Bink, you know, Knots Raw. Like, these guys have these big, like, slapping hip hop records,
Yeah.
and just that head nodding. I want to show I could do that too. You know, like, I've done R&B, I've done pow. I want to, I love that energy,
Right.
like that energy. And I was noticing with the battles that people were kind of gravitating towards like a trap
More
sound,
trap sound.
like a soft,
Yeah.
you know, like a soft synth, you know, like very, you know, big sounding, but it just didn't have that, you know, that neck snapping, like the Busta Rhymes
Yeah.
albums I used to have, and just like that energy. As like, I definitely want to show that I can do that.
And I to me, and I think that's why you did so well, is because with the last, you know, few set of battles that they put on, it was heavy with the trap style, you know, and not a lot of people were coming in with the boom bap. You had, you know, funny enough, you had, you know, producers that would introduce other genres into it, but that classic boom bap, it was like, it was almost like producers kind of strayed away from it. So, you know, to hear you come with it, right? But not only come with it, but then it has the powwow sound in it. You know what I mean? And it did not sound anything like, it just sounded like boom bap. With that element of powwow, and not the other way around. So I think you pulled it off masterfully.
Thank you so much. That means everything to me. See, growing up too, like, I was a powwow person. I've heard people try to use powwow in beats. Like, when it first started, they would play like maybe a 5-second clip of a powwow song, then it would fade out, and then the real beat would kick in, and it had nothing to do with the powwow song.
Right.
Or there was other beats where they'd use a little chop of a vocal sample. And I was like, as a powwow person, it wasn't doing it for me. Fine line to toe. Like, I noticed a lot of people tried. And just to hear that it hit the way that it did, like, I'm so relieved. You know, like that. I spent my whole life trying to perfect that formula.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm also too, like, I've heard like Kanye West, he used it in Black Skinhead. He had a little chop of a vocal sample and stuff like that. And I haven't really heard it too many times used in actual like rap.
Right.
You know, like, I really wanted to get that across. So to hear that I did it it's relieving.
No, that's dope. So then, so now you enter into the IMSTAFESTA, which is actually the first time ever doing the beat battle, and you're much more prepared for that one. right. You're much more prepared for that one, and then you win that one.
Right.
Now, are you at this point making more connections with other producers, with other artists, and so forth?
Yeah, actually, when I did the Battle of the Beatmakers at the Opera House, it was my first time actually meeting. Like, I've seen everybody's names. Like, you see them posted up and stuff. I get to put a name to the face.
Right.
So I got to meet DJ Quality, A1, another great producer.
Yeah.
He was super friendly, and he was really on his marketing game, like, heavy. Like, I was super impressed. Like, he was very personable. That was my first time actually making connections with real producers. So when I did the second battle, like the IMSTAFESTA battle, I was running into people from the previous battle. So I was like, okay, now I feel like a part of the community a little bit more.
Yeah.
Rather than just a lone native guy always, you know, on his own. Like,
it's not the first day of school.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was really good. And after the battle, when it kicked it with a few of the producers, shout out to War Williams, produced by Jam. You know, like shout out to my Guyanese connections. Like I really got to have a good cultural exchange with some of the producers because I realized too that a lot of them don't know a lot about First Nations.
Right.
Like anything really. Like where would you learn that? Like it's not really taught anywhere. Like so just to get that sharing of the cultures is crazy how music does that.
Yeah.
It allowed us to connect on that level. And they're telling me about their culture, their experiences. I share a little about mine. And I was like, this is so dope. Like I would have never met them if I had not done music. I would never have this exchange. I feel like I would not have. But yeah, it was great. Like I really appreciate that time. Like it wasn't just the battle, it was also, getting a chance to share my culture, learn about another culture, and feel part of a community. And getting a win, getting that dub was,
Right.
that was, something I've been looking for.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of my favorite MCs in the city is Big Tona.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I love almost everything that he does. And
shout out to Tona.
The day when I heard this track that he put out, I was like, wait a second. I know that sound.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that sound. And of course I checked it out, checked the credit, and it's like, yo, you produced it. How did that come about?
Oh man. So Tona, shout out to Big Tona. Like going back to that video of them reacting to the beat. Tona's hitting a million. Like he got up, he's dancing like that. Totally added so much weight to that video when he got up like that. Like it. Also, I want to speak about dancing as well because I was a dancer. Dancing and music combined, like in our culture, that's a powerful thing.
Right.
To see him get up like that and dance like that, that meant a lot culturally to me. To see him react like
he was moved.
He was moved.
Yes.
I was like, yo, this. So after he added me on IG, I was like, yo, thank you so much for that video. Like, you have no idea what that means to me, to my culture, to my people, my family. Like so many of my friends and family have shared that video, and they're just, they get a boost just from watching it, like just to see that reaction. Yeah. So that I call that native history. Like we don't really see that often, to see that. So he really made me a part of history. I was super thankful. So I expressed that to him. I was like, yo, hit me up with some tracks. Like, let's work. But of course, I lost my drive. Right? So my worst nightmare is now people are reaching out and I don't have any beats. So what I did was I scrounged what was left. I went through, there was a couple of beats still left over from the battle. I sent him a few of those and just whatever I felt like would fit his style, because I love his lyricism.
Yeah,
like
he's dope.
I go on his page and I'm seeing what he's putting out. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And he's putting out so much, like consistent.
Yeah.
Very consistent. Yeah. I'm like, this is what I have to learn to be more consistent like that and putting it out and just putting out quality work. So of course I sent him those beats and I didn't know what to think again. It's like when I hit submit for the beat battle. I was like, I don't know what he's gonna react to. Is he gonna love it? He's gonna, it's okay or whatever. But he hit me back like maybe a week later and he's like, yo, you got two on this one. I was like, what? Nice. So he sent me them and I was like, yo, this is the universe is blessing me right now. Now like it's like full circle. Yeah. Like he gave me that, that boost with that video, the reaction, and now getting to work with him. Like it was really a full circle moment.
Nice.
And he did a song with Sazy, and I love Sazy's work too. Like he's a great lyricist as well. So to hear what they did on the track, I was like, oh man, this is nice. I'm loving this. Nice. Like to hear someone of that level of talent, just a blessed beat. It's like, I love that marriage, You know, in the new age, like there's a lot of people who put out like just instrumental albums. Like there's been a separation now where it's just beats.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like I like when the lyricism and the beats hit. Like there's something about that. I like instrumentals as well, but something about, you know, when it's man, it's hard to explain. Like that's an art. It's like a lost art that I hope that people keep
Yeah. Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I don't ever want to see the culture go down. I want it to flourish and continue because, you know, the language is speaking. And he did a song called Uncle Buck, which when I saw the title, I laughed because that's my daughter's favorite movie.
Ah.
You know,
Right.
it means something to us. Like, and when they were rapping about it, I was like, man, the universe is telling me something. I don't know what it is, but you know, it felt good. It felt really good, you know. And shout out to Tona, shout out to Sazy. Thank you so much for doing that. That was, you know, that was a big part, like, you know, in my story.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope. Yeah, well, this Battle of the Beatmakers, they've already started taking submissions. Are you entering?
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, you know, I've been thinking about it. I'm rebuilding my studio again.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of which, so after I won the battle, I did the song with Tona. Cardinal Official adds me on IG.
Nice.
And I was like, that,
nice.
You know, like growing up watching videos, yeah, Cardinal Official, yeah, you know, of course, it's Cardinal Official. I was sure to give him love and say, you know what, when I was on the reserve, like your music, everything, like I remember going into the basement, you know, Money James playing, you know, Baby Blue Sound Crew, all that stuff. We like Bacardi Slang, you know, these are big records that were big on the reserve. We were, you know, that as kids, like that was, you look back on those times with fondness, like that was what built who I am now. And I was sure to show him that love and say, I appreciate that. I appreciate the music and I appreciate you adding me. Like really made my dreams come true. Like, yeah, that was, okay. He asked me for beats and I didn't have nothing to give him. Right. So back to that point. So now I'm rebuilding my studio piece by piece, starting from scratch again, but now you can't tell me nothing. You know, I know, like after these were the wins that I was looking for, it was the validation I really needed to say, you know, what I was doing made sense. And even though where I come from, they don't show love like that. I feel like people respect what I was able to accomplish. The younger people saw that there's you know, I'm getting love on this level. Maybe it's possible for them to do something, you know. Right. It doesn't have to be making music, it could be anything. But just the fact that one of us made it to that stage and that level is monumental. Yeah. So but to the battle, yeah, I would love to participate again. I would love to do it again. Like I want that W. Good, like
so, now it's more than just being on the stage. Right, now you want the trophy to go with everything else.
So yeah, I was thinking about it. I just don't want to go through that same situation again where I'm like trying to force out music last second. Like I really want to be prepared for this one. So if you know,
I mean, you got time.
You know, if
you got time.
You know,
you got time.
It's a possibility. So yeah, I was thinking about, you know, when you're naturally competitive and you like the game like that, like of course, like it's calling you.
Right.
Like, it's calling you. Like I want to get that win, but yeah, we'll see where it takes me because yeah, I just bought my. I don't know what number of keyboards this is now, but starting again from scratch. And my approach now is like, after hearing my beats in Opera House, like that's the other thing about bedroom producers. Like you have to hear your beats out loud to really understand.
Right.
Like I love it. I need to feel that rumble like that. There's just something about being in that live stage. Like that's the ultimate zenith of being a producer, is like hearing your work in the best possible. Like I don't like when people play your beats off a cell phone. Or, they play your music up, and it's like, I want you to hear
but the
it.
bass is there. There's
exactly,
bass there.
exactly. Like, I want you to hear it in that full, the HD, the best, with the lights, everything. That's the whole experience.
Right.
Man, yeah, there's nothing beats that. So I would really like to participate again.
Yeah,
of course.
Dope.
Yeah.
So, well, besides the beat battles coming up,
Mhm.
what's next? Or what do you see next for Chippewa Sioux?
So I've been thinking, like, I'm sure a lot of people have been discussing this about the changes in the music industry, the Spotify thing, not paying people, paying fractions of a cent, like the oversaturation of a lot of platforms. Like, there's just 117 years of music being uploaded daily. Like, you're lost in the ocean. But what I think is, it's time for new platforms. I think producers or tastemakers or whatever need to start inventing new, what's the next YouTube? What's the next thing? Like, because it is tough to be heard this day and age when there's so much music being put out.
Right.
And myself too, like,
I can tell you, doing a record with Card now
that would definitely
make it a little bit easier.
No, absolutely. So I feel like I do have a leg up in that sense. But also the way that music is presented, I feel like it's time for an update.
Right.
Like, we go through a shift every 10 years, 7. It's faster now. Like, faster now. Like, it might be daily soon. So I feel like, because DJ Quality was, I was speaking to him about what he uses, and he said he's going to TikTok, and he's just a TikTok. And I was like, yeah, I could think TikTok, but man, there's so much people going on TikTok. Like, there's a lot. Like, you're definitely fighting a huge crowd. So finding ways to stand out is getting a little tougher.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, like, how do I change my approach as a producer? And using my sound. That's the other thing, is when sounds are introduced, like, they become saturated fast. Like, you see the cycle is happening a lot faster now. Like, people process it, and then they move on to the next thing. They move on to the next thing, and I don't want to be lost in that aspect.
Right.
It's the struggle is finding staying power these days. Like, is there song that will last longer than a year? Like how when we were growing up, like, having one album back in the day, you would play that album out, you would let that thing breathe for a long time. Now people get through a playlist in a day.
But I do believe, though, it is the saturation that's causing that, right? Because it's just like you're saying, like, back in the day, we got an album, we cherished it because we know that we're probably not gonna get anything new for another 5-6 months. Right. Least, and then on top of that, that artist that we just had that album from, he's probably not gonna put out another album to another 2 or 3 years.
Right. So we definitely appreciated songs like back then. So finding new ways to appreciate the music, like, the way technology has changed, the way people have changed, the way people have kind of consume media now. It's ripe time for a shakeup. Honestly, like, I know there's someone out there right now who is developing something that's going to change the direction, the whole wave again.
Right.
And I want to be that person. Like, I want to be on that wave of, like, thinking outside the box. And like, I see lots of creativity happening. I see lots of new ideas being introduced, and I think there needs to be more innovation like that, because the beats are crazy now too. Like, I even with all the producers that that enter, like, there's so much talent. Like, being in that battle, listening to people's beats, like the rounds while I'm waiting for mine, I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. There's so many
a lot of talented kids out there.
There's, like, so many great producers, and it would be
you're one of them.
Thank you so much. It would be a shame for it to be lost in the ocean of music. Like, how do we get these amazing artists that shine that they need, and that, because we used to have like 106 in Park. We used to have, these things where you could go on, and we need new platforms like that need to show people like this right here. Like, I appreciate this podcast. Like, this is great. I love talking about production. Like, I love talking about music. This is a great platform.
Yeah.
More of that. We need like the appreciation for the crafts. And I always like to compare music to sports. Like, I use sports analogies. Like, I'm hitting jumpers daily, like I'm in the gym putting in that work. Now the game has shifted where you can just be a good marketing person, and then you can be, you could be the next Jordan. You don't have to shoot the jumpers. You just have to be great at marketing yourself. Right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We need to change that. We need to give, it's great to be a good marketer, but also the people that put in the effort to their crafts, I really appreciate. I love people that put in that work, that time, and it shows in the music, and it shows like there's still artists out there that have it. Like, I can't sit here and dismiss and say it's all, whatever. There's still great art out there. It's just the marketing, selling yourself, like that part, it muddled the game up a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a way that we could show love to these people who really love the craft, and they put in that work, and they're not just trying to get, a quick clout, or just they just want to be seen. That there's a lot of that too. But I love these conversations here. Like, I just love the craft. Like, I love the craft, and I love discussing it with people who love the craft and appreciate it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Listen, man, thank you. This is a really dope conversation.
No, this is great. Yes,
thank you for coming through. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing, sharing yourself with the podcast, and letting people know more about you, just more about you other than the music.
Right.
And just I have a greater appreciation for what you've been doing now with this whole powwow hip hop. Like, I get it. You know what I mean?
Right,
like I get it more than it. It's not a gimmick to me. Right. It's and I never felt that way, but I feel a deeper love to it now that I've sat down there, I've spoken with you. Let people know where they can contact you, find you, hear those beats.
All right. _ Chippewa Sioux as my IG. Here's the other thing too, is I like, because when I met the producers after the IMSTAFESTA battle, they were saying, I didn't know what you were gonna look like.
Right.
They're like, when they heard the music first, they're like, they had their idea in their head of what I was gonna look like. And then, like, I like flipping on its ear and not being what people expected of a First Nations person.
Right.
As you see me, I'm dressed up at the IMSTAFESTA looking like, like a Tay Diggs character, romantic comedy type thing. Like, they didn't expect, nobody knows what to expect, really.
Nah.
So I like having that element of, like, changing.
You were too well dressed for those grimy beats. You were too well dressed for those grimy beats.
But yeah, I like that. I like, people have a certain idea of what a native producer is, or what this person is, and I like flipping it on its head. And like, this, there's more to it than what you might think. And people don't know my experience. That it's funny what people, these preconceived notions that they might have until you actually come in the room and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I have like a big background in like R&B. Like, I love R&B so much. Like, SWV on Vogue, that's how I grew up. Like, loving the melodies and stuff. And that was my basis for a lot of my music. And people don't know that. They think that I'm really heavy into a hip hop head and stuff like that. I didn't pick up hip hop till way later. So Chippewa Sioux _ IG. Oh, and the point I was getting to is that I wanted to prove that you don't need to have these certain things they say you have to be successful.
Right.
Like you have to have a Twitter account or IG or whatever. Like my IG is very bare bones. Like I have my basic stuff. It's more for contacting people or letting them contact me. But I want to prove that, it's a box they're putting you in. You have to put your stuff out on TikTok or you have to put it on this. I want to prove that that's not necessary.
No.
We don't need to have to put it on anything. Like as soon as they say you need to have this, that's opening the door to say, you know what? I'll show you that there's a different
I can
way.
do it a different way.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So IG is the only thing I do have. But I just want to, you might just see me pop up at a battle. You might see me pop up at this random event. You might hear my name, my music over here, but it's not me on promoting this or on being a social media.
It'll be the music speaking for itself.
Exactly. So a lot of people think that I have to get, this many followers. I have to get this many. No, if I can go and make big noise at this battle, that should be enough to get my name out there.
Right.
I don't need to be like, I've never seen myself as that guy. Like, hey, what's up, everybody? It's, whatever. It's like and subscribe. Like I've never been that kind of person. But shout out to people that do. Like there's some people that are really great at it and it's working for them. But I'm also showing that there is also an alternative path that you can take where you don't really need those things. But that's just me. That's because I'm different, right?
Yeah.
But I do have IG. If people want to contact that, you can get at me _Chippewa Sioux, Chippewa Sioux. And yeah, that's look out for me. You might just see me at your local, I've been in Vancouver. I've been all around the country. Like people don't know, they might have heard me somewhere.
Right.
They don't know that they might have heard or seen me or crossed paths with me. And I like that. Yeah. I love that.
Well, definitely you'll see him on Producer Unplugged.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you again for coming through. And I want to thank Plugins Canada for sponsoring the episode. And until next time.
Okay.